You don't know this. I was up until 4 a.m.
What the fuck?
I didn't get. I got about 4 hours
What the
of
fuck?
sleep.
You went to bed at 4 a.m. and I went to bed at like 8:30.
I love this for us. One of my favorite streamers was just doing like a surprise gaming stream, and I was expecting it because she started it around 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. So I was expecting it to go until 1 a.m. Next thing I know, they're ending it off at 3 a.m. And I'm like, well, and I was trying to read the whole time. I was like, well, I guess I'll just finish this section I'm on. Is it up for another hour? Hello, welcome to a Fish and Flower podcast. I'm Flower, aka Rose. I just realized the streamer I was talking about, uh, may listen to this episode because she said she was going to check out the podcast, and it makes sense to like listen to the most recent episode. So hey, Memory, if you're listening to this, your shout out to her, I guess. Um, my fun fact is not about that. My fun fact is the fact that I am confirmed going away for a month. So guess who's stressed now about all the reading she has to do?
I guess it's gonna be closer to a fish on Fish's birthday, but you won't see fish. Like that's kind of fish phobic if you ask me.
I'll hang out with you all day. It's during the time that she's away, out of the country, that I'm cat sitting. And I don't need to be like walking a cat. So it's fine. I just gotta keep an eye on Phoebes because she will get into literally anything.
My birthday's on a Saturday this year.
I know.
That's crazy.
I forget what episode
I'm
I've
not
set
even
up
gonna
to.
be doing anything.
You're gonna be on a call with me.
No, I meant like partying.
Us partying, could you imagine?
I
Yeah,
don't
the
even want
Wicker
to be
King
drunk.
episode is the episode before your birthday. Like the day before your birthday. I was like, I'm pretty
That's
sure I planned that. Anyways,
I don't want to think about my birthday anymore.
me neither. Uh, your turn.
Okay. My name is Fish, aka Stingray, and I think I'm losing my mind. That's it.
um, Listen, I think I lost my mind reading this book. Um,
It's a good book. I
it is
like
a
the
good book.
book.
I will go into it in a second. In today's episode, we have the Taking of Jake Livingston. Uh,
I don't remember the last thing. Like everything I've read this year, I feel like I didn't even comprehend and fully. I don't know what happened in any of the fucking books I've read this year.
I love that for you. I should have known when I went on Storygraph when I labeled it as currently reading and I went to content warnings. It was the first time I'd ever seen a section in content warnings have more than three. But there's like one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight in just graphic alone. And then there's more in moderate and minor. Like, I should have known. But my brain just like glimpsed
I
at
liked
that
it.
and then just moved right past it. Right?
Why do you
Like,
like it
bullying
so
is
much?
the first thing on the list, and my brain just didn't register it. If you know anything about me, I don't like reading bullying because of personal history. And I remember vividly when you were reading this book, you told me, hey, there's a lot of bullying in this. And I said, okay, since I know beforehand, if I separate it out between multiple days, I should be fine. Despite the fact that it's a book that's under 8 hours long, the audiobook is. If I do it in multiple days, it should be fine. And then I also read it for a vlog and I ran out of time. Like it was like within like 24 hours and whatnot. So I read the whole book in one day.
Me too.
And it was an issue for me mentally, and that is the only reason why it's a 3.5. I can recognize that it's probably a 4 if I separate it between days, but I mentally me had a hard time.
Yeah,
um
I'll probably give it like a 4 or 5 because I give everything a 4 or 5.
mhm. um so
I totally
yeah.
don't hate that for myself. I totally don't hate everything ever. I'm fine. I think we should preface this with the fact that I just got home from my dad. Let's just full blank stop period with that one. That says enough on its own.
um Anyways, this book has been a book that I've been contemplating doing for this podcast since October, September last year.
You know what? I remember, I never, what the fuck am I talking about? I don't remember when, but the first time I saw this book was in an ad, in like a literal legit ad in my feed. Like, when you like click on a post and then
Hmm.
you just continue to scroll from there. It was like one of those ads. And I was like, ooh, what is this? And I looked it up. Like, that's the first time an ads really ever got me.
I in the good old days, I think it was October or September because I was trying to figure out what books to do because this is a horror, right? And so I sent a bunch of options to the fish, and this happened multiple times. They choose other books, ignore this one, and I would go, this one's a ghosty, and I know you like ghosts, so like here's this one, and also it's gay, and then they just ignore it, choose other books, and then a month, sometimes a little less than a month later, would come to me and be like, hey, send me a picture of that book, and be like, hey, we should read this for the podcast. And I'd be like, bitch, what the fuck? Why do you do that? This
Listen,
happened multiple times to the point where I stopped asking and I just put in the catalog for the podcast. And then I moved it around to this month because
listen,
me going away and having too much to do, it made sense since I was going to read it this month anyways. Might as well make an episode this month.
listen.
And
You
here we
think
are.
I absorb anything you tell me?
No,
Like
no,
I
really, I
do.
don't.
Half the time I do, but if it's like just like I'm sorry, there's not enough capacity in my brain. Like there's
It's okay. There's not enough capacity in my brain either.
is this a cry for help? Maybe.
Anyways, content warnings. These are important. Listen to them.
Please.
um, we
I would throw
have
myself off a cliff while reading this too, so don't worry.
okay. We have bullying, gun violence, sexual assault slash attempted rape, violence, murder, racism, homophobia, child abuse, mass school shootings, death, suicide, gore, animal cruelty in the way of torturing bugs, and domestic abuse.
No wonder I love this book. LOL, and I did give it 5 stars. Are we surprised?
That reminds me of oh god, I made a joke the other day. What was it? Me whenever there's grief in the content warnings. This is gonna ruin the tour because I went through all my favorite books and let me tell you, a lot of them had grief, especially if they were after 2020.
There's a couple books about grief that I really think you should read, but that's a different conversation.
It really is. All right. So this book is dual POV. I think if you read it with your eyeballs, Jake technically has more chapters, right? But the audiobook took all the Jake chapters that were in a row and just made them into one giant chapter. Um,
I
and
didn't pick
so
on that.
yeah, so which made that nice. Also Jake's chapters are generally the longer ones. Sawyer's is a little shorter, like usually like 4 minutes long per chapter. Until you get to a point at the end. Um, Also,
LOL.
until I say so, all the Sawyer chapters will be from before the shooting, learning about him, what got him to that point, because he is the shooter. That's the thing. We also follow a school shooter. That's oh yeah. And uh, basically what how he was failed horribly by all these people that got him to this point. Uh, by what he's writing in his journal, right? So good times. You ready for me to
Is this the
start?
point where I bring up that I feel like there's a fine line in your brain chemistry to where you'll either go down the route of hurting other people or hurting yourself when you're treated the way you are growing up? Like there's just a very fine line that separates people from being like mass shooters, serial killers and stuff like that versus just being mentally ill and taking it out on themselves. Because those two things occur, you know, and people who end up hurting and killing a bunch of other people also cross over into this line. But a lot of the times, if you're mostly on the side of just hurting yourself, you don't cross over to the other side. Does that make sense? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because as someone who's obviously mentally ill, who's obviously dabbled That's not the word I should use. Uh, in self harm. Sometimes I'm sitting here. I think that's why I was fascinated by true crime for so long because I was like, damn, that's crazy, you know. I'm sitting here and I'm relating to Sawyer's chapters, which I don't want to think about that. And then I'm like, but I would never hurt somebody like that because people have hurt me like that, and I don't, you see what I'm saying? There's just
Yes.
a fine line in between that, and I think about that often, and it's kind of disturbing.
All right.
Don't
You
you
want
love when
this?
I have big brain thoughts?
Yes. Um, I think I will mention something similar at one point because you do like you can see when the moment switches in the book, right?
Hmm.
For Sawyer when he goes from harming himself to harming others, which is interesting. Um, you want to guess how many pages of notes I took? Because I did take notes.
Um, 4.5.
6.
Damn it.
In my defense, there's like gaps in between each chapter because it switches POV. So there's more
There's a loaf of
breaks
bread on my
than
floor.
normal. So, anyways, first chapter is Jake's POV. You like immediately learn that he can see ghosts, like immediately. Usually it's as they relive moments of their death. Um, his brother is older and more assertive than
Oh, I
him.
just remembered the joke I was gonna make.
Okay.
I now, God, my brain works. I now know what the taking of Jake Livingston is. I know what the taking is. I know what the snatching is.
Oh, okay.
Like how I figured out what moved the dead.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that didn't land the way I wanted it to because I'm fine. I swear.
Okay. Um, anyways, Jake is one of the very few black kids at his high school. It doesn't go into depth about it. I don't think it blatantly says it, but they are quote unquote from the hood. Um, the way Jake describes it at one point, it's like they're at the edge of the hood, like they're a hood adjacent type thing, single mother type thing. They're going to a private school, uh, to get into better colleges and whatnot, and it's really important for his mother for them to do that. A part of this is because Jake was bullied at their public high school and whatnot, right? But also better for Benji, his older brother, who does like football and is a jock and smart and all this stuff, right? And so they're at a mostly white private school.
Mhm.
And him and his brother are some of the only black kids, and nobody knows they're brothers. Like the teachers know, but like other classmates don't know.
Which doesn't make sense to me, but
You know, um, he copes with it by drawing, right? And we learn ghosts can't harm you because they can't touch you, which is what he learned from his mentor, which is really funny because the next sentence I wrote down is the survivor of the school shooting nearby happened to be a neighbor of his, Mateo is his name, and he was found dead and murdered. And you don't learn this until a little bit. Like Jake doesn't figure this out, but it's pretty obvious immediately that the killer was Sawyer, who was the school shooter, who then killed, I think he killed 6 classmates and then himself. So, how is he doing this? As a ghost, how could he harm you? Right? That's yep. Um oh my god. Now people on Discord being funny. And distracting me. So Sawyer POV, he was in a mental hospital, I think it was officially, after trying to hang himself,
real.
but his mom took him out of embarrassment. And a general
I
quote, it's
mean,
not
I get it. It is kind of embarrassing.
general quote because like obviously I'm listening as I type this up, right? So it's not exact quote, but general quote is sometimes my mom asks me if she's a good mother. I don't know what to tell her. She didn't start cooking meals until after I tried to hang myself. If she cares, she'll come looking for me. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I'm
yeah.
fine. I'm normal about this.
Anyways, we also get hints that his father had mental health issues and anger issues as well. Um,
LOL.
and would just like go into manic episodes where he would like throw things and break things and stuff. So, including his own children.
Don't
Um,
you love me, Manic?
so back to Jake. Some good old microaggressions. No, why did I write it like that? Like being stared at as
Are
he's
we
an
surprised that you wrote it
escaped
like that?
being stared at like he's an escaped convict, his words, when arriving late to class, and because he doesn't want to read about rich white people in The Great Gatsby, which I don't blame him as someone who's read it twice. Yeah.
It was
Don't blame
horrible.
you. So his language arts teacher assumes because he didn't read it that he can't read and kicks him out into the hallway. Anyways, let's get to the point where the school does something very illegal and it's never touched on again. How they were not sued up the wazoo is a miracle. But because there was a school shooting nearby, and school shootings are a thing now, um, they have drills. We all in high school, elementary school, at any point, you go through shooting drills, right? We all been through this. Um, but
Is
the
this the
school,
point where I tell you that they had us on lockdown one time in middle school because our school got a bomb threat?
my high school had that when I was in college, and my sister was just texting me during the lockdown. I was like, "Ma'am, are you supposed to have your phone out?" Like, and she's like, "Technically, I'm in the basement, so if they come down here, try to kill me." Um. Anyways, so a teacher, the principal has a teacher set up secret speakers in the hallway to play shooting sounds, so the students will go into a panic and try to escape. You do see one girl get trampled, right? Like this is a health hazard. Like this is so illegal. Um, and obviously Jake is having a panic attack. I don't blame you. I would too. When he gets home with his brother Benji, to find Sawyer's initials written in blood on their walls, which is SAD, sad, and they can both see it, which means it's real. It's not just like part of the spirit realm, right? Um, also, Jake doesn't know that that's Sawyer's initials initially, but like you as a reader automatically know. Like he doesn't even know the name of the killer, like the shooter yet.
Yeah. Also, if I was in that situation, I would do more than have a panic attack. Hear me out.
True. All right. So next Sawyer section. This is the animal abuse aspect with the tortured bugs. Basically, his sister came into his room. He like basically lives in the shed. That's like not really attached, like not attached, but in the backyard type thing, right? So that he can have his own space. And his sister comes in one day, and finds jars of tortured and dying bugs. And so it upset her, so she threw them all in the creek, which put him into a blind rage and caused him to throw things. And then his mother instantly blames his sister, saying, "Why would you do this to him? Just let him do his things, right?" Um, and this is when we learn that he has issues of thoughts of wanting to hurt people, and he was so scared that he was going to hurt someone inevitably that the only way he could help everyone else in the situation is to die himself, and that's why he tried to hang himself. Um,
If you think about it, that's so fucking sad.
I know, right? Okay,
Like,
but back to Jake. Benji and Jake are checking the whole house, with like knives, and this is when we learn Benji has a secret gun. And then they call the police and their mother and whatnot. So everyone just assumes that whoever broke in and killed Mateo broke into their house, and so they put up a bunch of security cameras, and that's a fun thing. This is when Jake learns the shooter's initials were S blank D, uh, and then sees him in a nightmare where he ends up possessing him. That's a whole thing. And then his family seems to know about the ghosty things and just ignore it. Like Benji just is like, "You're crazy. Like, shut the fuck up." Um, Back to Sawyer. This whole chapter was basically how everyone ignores his mental health issues, saying if he just made friends, um, then everything would be fine. He just needs to put in more effort, including his psychologist,
can
basically
we talk
showing
about
how
how many psychologists are just they don't do their jobs on purpose?
I don't know. Basically showing how everyone failed him before he reached a boiling point. Like it's a lot of this section is basically just like him trying to go to this psychiatrist or psychologist and just sitting there, and the psychologist just like waiting until the clock is over, so he can just be like, "Okay, bye." Oh, right. Anyways, next, I think it's Monday. Jake goes to class language arts, opens up his copy of Great Gatsby. He gets there early, so he's like, okay, let me skim this section so that I can like pretend like I know what I'm talking about, right? Um, and in blood, there are a bunch of weird symbols and numbers and whatnot. Reading his book, his copy of Great Gatsby. Immediately, everyone's all like, "Oh my god!" and making fun of him, and the teacher blames him, so he gets in trouble and laughed at. Um, the symbols and numbers and whatnot are Mateo's address. Now this is where we get to my favorite part. Uh, well, second favorite part. There's a certain character who dies and I laugh. Um, but
Real.
um, my other favorite part is that uh, Jake and Sawyer have a lot in common, including but not limited to being gay and bullied. And Jake's bully is a football player jock friend of Benji's named Chad. And when I tell you, when I heard his name was Chad, I giggled. Like
I forgot his name was Chad.
you're gonna make the most Chad character named Chad. I'm sorry, sir. That is hilarious. Um, so Chad's been staring at him a lot. And that's when a girl from class named Fiona is like follows him outside after he's like kicked or runs out of class. He runs out of class because that whole book thing. She follows him outside. And he's like, "Hey, I really think it was Chad because he seems to have some kind of fucking issue with you. Anyways, you seem like a cool guy. You want to hang out with for lunch together? Um, right? So he's got a friend. He does have a friend. I don't want to talk about him. I didn't even put down his name. That's how unimportant he is. He's just fucking annoying. Um, anyways, back to Sawyer. This is a longer section. Uh, his mother tries to say there's something wrong with Sawyer. Uh, but I think this is after one of his anger fits, right? But the psychologist says he's fine and there's nothing wrong. And I wrote, and I quote, trust me as someone in his head, you know there's something wrong. And also, he tried to kill himself less than a month ago. Like, I'm sorry. I think there's something going on. Anyways, and I quote, he just has trouble relating.
No, never. No, never.
The
Personally,
psychologist
something's
literally
happening with
says,
her.
and I quote, he just has trouble relating. And I wrote, and I quote, you'll have trouble relating to this fist.
Yeah.
I'm kind of funny sometimes. Anyways, only 19 days after being discharged from the hospital, he has to go back to school, which he's like, I like, if I could get out of it, I would, but like, I get why I have to. Um,
Listen, having the grace of having 19 days before going back to school after being in the hospital, I would, whoa. Because I would have to go back to school immediately. Like,
um,
bad.
everyone immediately knows why he was gone, and he assumes his sister told her friends, and then they're big mouths, so they told everyone and all this stuff, right? Um, so this is where we learn Mateo has been bullying him for years, including what is considered sexual assault because pulling down his shorts at gym in front of everyone is an example given. As well as beating him up almost constantly.
Like,
And
I
I
just,
kind of get the killing of him after you already die. I kind of get it. Like, sir, yeah.
I
Like,
don't
you
think it's
see what it was
that
like for
hard to
Mateo to
not
die,
treat
but
people
like,
badly.
I get it. Um,
Like, I don't
Um, a big point of his bullying is the fact that everyone assumes he's gay, which he doesn't blatantly say to anyone. He doesn't tell anyone until Jake after he's dead, right? When he's like, "We're both
That's
gay,"
so
and that's why
sad.
people bully us, right? But he never says like people just assume and ask him, and he just isn't the person who he's the type of person who doesn't say anything because he doesn't find it worth his time, right? And so everyone just thinks he's weird and gay, and so beat him up. Um, Also, there's a whole thing where he zones out when people talk to him, which is a thing that Jake does a lot when he's seeing ghosts. So, um, I am briefly in love with his mother. This ends quickly because we learn about some stuff at home at the end. But his mom is a pilot. His single mother is a pilot. She
I
worked
mean,
up.
yes, that's pretty cool.
I know, right? She worked up from being what was it the stewardess on a plane to being a pilot. I don't know about you,
Mhm.
but that sounds kind of hot to me. I'm a simple woman. Anyways, there's astral projection now. Uh, and he uses it to watch Mateo's
Astral
death.
projection is so scary to me.
I know, right? He uses it to watch Mateo's death, which is kind of scary because like he's literally being stabbed to death with like a floating knife. So their mom is going away for like I think 2 weeks because pilot stuff, right? Um, so Benji throws a party at the house. Um, so
Who thought
his
that was a good idea? Who
I
thinks it's a good idea to throw parties when
also
people go away? Like, I'm sorry.
right before she leaves, she tells Jake to take care of Benji, and he's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll be the older sibling." Like the fuck? Um, Fiona's friend. So Jake's friend tells Fiona and her friend, "Hey, oh my God, Jake's brother is throwing a party." So I'm like, "Oh my God, you should totally get me into this party, right?" Definitely seeming clout chasing, right? And Fiona's friend is all into it. All I love parties until she learns it's quote unquote in the hood, which is where we learn from Jake. It's not actually in the hood; it's like hood adjacent. But she's all like, "I can't," like, ew, who would want to go to the hood?
Like
And
that?
then
No, I
leaves.
hate that. The facility's
Meanwhile,
lit. I understand that it's just like, never mind.
anyways,
It doesn't matter.
Sawyer hunts him with a gun and winks. Um, and then he goes with his friend outside, I think, to the track field or whatever, because I think he's on the track team. I know it's for a lot of private schools, you have to do at least one sports team type thing, right? Um, so that would make sense. Uh, and his friend peer pressures him into drinking. Yeah, before this, Jake had never done alcohol or any drugs before because he doesn't want to feel less in control, which validates him.
Hmm.
And so obviously, what
Don't you
does he
love when
do?
the people who
He
peer pressure
gets
you into drinking aren't friends that you meet in high school, but it's like your legit mom? Anyways.
um back to Sawyer. Sawyer, there we go. I can't speak words. His sister is taunting him mostly about him being gay. Until he storms away, and she immediately recognizing, uh, upsetting a suicidal person is a bad idea. And so she's like banging on his door. There's like this whole thing where one of the rules that the hospital was like leaving the door open at all times, right? And so I'll bring up the other rules later because it is brought up. But basically, she's banging on
You know, that
the
doesn't have to be a
door.
rule when you don't have a door at all.
She's
I
banging
need to
on his
shut my mouth.
door, being all like, "Please, Sawyer, don't do it! Oh my God!" And he's just like internally laughing, pretending that he's hurting himself because the idea of her having to explain to the world how her wrongdoing for once, like explain how she did wrong by him, like having to explain herself for once for not being the perfect little princess, brings him great pleasure. And I get it. It's kind of petty, but I get it.
Yeah.
Um, okay, Giant Jake section. I remember I was getting in the laundry as I was reading this section, so I was like progressive, like occasionally pausing, uh, like folding shirts so that I could like type up notes on my phone. So this is a fun section. Um, Jake, at this party, in which he's hella drunk. I was like actually worried that like his friend put something in the alcohol because like it was bad levels of drunk. And we didn't see him take
Well, wasn't it
much.
like it was like liquor of some sort? So, and
Yeah, it
he's
was
never
liquor and it was his
drank
first drink,
before.
and he's not
So
like a large guy, so I guess I get it. But he gets drunk and watches two gay ghosts have sex in his room.
that's so funny. I forgot about that. And they're like, they were like, can't you get like? They're like, he's like, this is my room, and he's like, and they're like, so.
We've been here
Oh my
longer, my
god.
dude. Banji, Banji, nope, Benji had sex with Chad's girlfriend. And Jake walks in on them. So that's fun. Um, and this is when Jake notices one of the security cameras was moved to Benji's room. Cop, cop. There's a new black kid at school. His name's Alistair. He overhears in the bathroom as Jake's friend breaks up with him. Basically, there's this whole fight where his friend is like, "Oh my God, you didn't like let me into the party, and then your brother wouldn't let me in." And he's all like, "Yeah, I fell asleep because of the alcohol you gave me." And he's like really rude to Jake, and Jake's like, "Okay, bye." Like, I have better friends now. Like, oh my God. Um, so Alistair hears
So
this
proud of
all.
him.
Um, And we learned that Alistair, I, his dad's a civil lawyer of some kind or something like that, right? And made calls to the school because, despite the fact that he was like on the short list of possible students, right? Um, he hadn't been called in like X amount of time. So his dad made some calls and learned that his name was taken off the list for prospective students because racism. Um, anyways, Jake's instantly into Alistair. Um, and then
I thought that was kind of funny.
yeah, and then he's
Like
haunted
I
by
get it.
Sawyer, who hints at taking over Jake's body. And then Jake goes back downstairs to find Benji and Chad are fighting in the hallway, and Jake's unused TikTok account because like he had a bunch of social media, but he just like basically deleted all the apps and all this stuff, so he doesn't use any of it. So his
Me
unused
staring at
TikTok
my unused
account
TikTok account.
posted a security video of Benji and Chad's girlfriend together. Um, he tries to explain that it wasn't him, but Benji says that he's just trying to destroy his life. Of course, Benji's the only one who gets in trouble for the fight. Um, and then Jake goes and visits his mentor because like, hey, this weird shit's happening to Sawyer. Um, and he learned she tries to help him and basically explains some stuff about smells may be like smells that are similar to Sawyer may actually help him stay around and whatnot. And we learn the incense that Jake burns to help with ghosts. Um, the smell of them are very earthy, right? And
Yeah.
Sawyer was a big earthy person, and that's the only thing he cared about. It was nature. So, maybe that's why he
I
stayed
wish
nearby.
there was more of the mentor in this, honestly.
I know she's in this one scene. Jake is regularly worried that Benji will kill him. Like we learn in this scene, like he's going home and he doesn't want to go home because it will just be Benji there, and he's like regularly worried that one day Benji will just cut off his head. And I'm just like, hello,
Huh?
sir.
That's
Anyways,
normal.
I know
That's
he
so normal.
returns home to find Benji burning all his things, including the ghosty protection things. Um, and
Because that's so normal. You just burn your sibling shit when they piss you off. Like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, what the fuck is wrong with these people?
Jake tries to explain it was Sawyer's ghost, and Benji calls him crazy and says he hopes Sawyer kills him.
Yeah, if my brother said that to me, mm.
Um,
Granted, he's done worse things to me, but whatever.
okay,
That sounds really
so
bad.
we get more of the hospital rules for when Sawyer was taken out. 2 out of 3 of the rest. I think there's 4 we learn. Um, basically, he's not allowed near guns and mind altering substances. Makes sense. So, of course, his mother calls his uncle to take him shooting and drinking. This is the
Yeah.
scene when I got my brain started going wee woo, wee woo, wee woo. Because
Oh my god.
I was like, what? Where's the like? I read the sexual assault part, and I was like, in the content warnings, I was like, okay, okay. And then it's like, as soon as the uncle comes to the picture, and then he's sitting with him outside, saying things
Mhm.
about how like you'll get over your depression, and then asking if he's had sex yet, and talking about how he liked to hang out with girls as when he was a young lad, and everyone thought he
Yeah,
was
I was
gay
like,
for
oh
it.
god.
Yeah, and everyone thought he was gay for it, but it was actually because then he was closer to the girls. Like, obviously, I'm just too big brain for you, and all this stuff. And my brain was just going, oh, oh no, oh no. But this is like the only masculine person Sawyer has in his life. I thought for like most of this book that this uncle, I think his name's Rob, was his father's brother. Because at one point when it mentions his father's anger issues, he like thinks about how Rob and his father are very similar, right? Um, but like near the end of the book, you learn that it's his mother's brother, which kind of
Which
makes
I
sense.
feel like makes it worse.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, Jake to fight dark moods that attract Sawyer, he thinks of Alistair. And this is when Alistair starts passing notes with him, and it's flirty, and then they start texting, and it's flirty, and just assume whenever they're talking, it's kind of flirty. Um, Chad is watching them pass notes in class, and then they cut class together.
Hell yeah.
And this is where we learn the 4th rule that the hospital had for him leaving after being there for like a week, right? Um, is he's supposed to talk to a therapist for 6 months. Um, right after like he has to talk to a therapist, right? I think it's like 6 week anniversary of his appointments with his psychologist. His mother cancels his appointments. She's like, he's just trying to make a sandwich, and she's just like, "So, you think you're psychologist? Uh huh, uh huh. Okay, I don't think you need them anymore. I'm gonna cancel you
Like,
because you
hear
don't need
me
them
out.
anymore." And literally, she's gets something out of a drawer in the kitchen, and when she does so, he can literally see the paperwork that says that he has to be talking to a therapist for at least 6 months, right there on the top.
No, because hear me out. At this point, that we already know that his mother is obviously neglectful, but that I feel like that's downright abusive. I don't care.
Same. Not getting health care or uh, doctor's appointments, that type of stuff, um, for your child does count as physical abuse. So, um,
LOL.
yeah. Anyways, the reasoning is because no child of hers should be in therapy. That's embarrassing. Also, she's now forcing his sister to be nicer to him. He's like, a little too late now, isn't it? Uh, kind of funny, but dude. Jake, time, overnight, Sawyer killed another student from his school. Uh, and Jake has stopped sleeping so he can't be surprised by Sawyer attack. Not a good idea. He steals some of his mom's sleeping pills and goes to Sawyer's school so he can see what happened there. And while astral projecting there, he talks with a girl. Um, I forget her
This
name.
was
I
so
never wrote
sad.
it down, but it's like River. That's what it is. It was some naturey thing. River. He talks with River, who's stuck there. She was one of the victims, right? She didn't have hands when he initially started talking to her. So did Sawyer cut off her hands?
I don't remember, but this part was so sad to me. I mean, it's all sad. I mean,
So
his initials are sad, but just
Sawyer comes back every night to the school to taunt her, right? Um and River and Jake combine their energy and see Sawyer stealing Jake's energy. And so the mist tells him to kill Sawyer. And so he ectoblasts him. God, I don't know how to describe this. Um Also, River's been in like a death loop this whole time, right? And it ends when she fights Sawyer, right, and wins. Um Also, Jake is physically bruised from this astral projection fight. And so the next day, I think it is, at school in the locker room, he's like changing in a private stall because he, one, prefers to change in a private stall, but two, because he doesn't need anybody to see all his bruised fucking ribs, right?
hmm
And so he is in there trying to change, and Chad starts really banging on the door of the stall as everyone's laughing around him, being very unoriginal as bullying in the locker room. Which both Jake and I were like, seriously, my dude, but also he was like obviously scared because like this big giant jock is like about to knock down the stall door, right? Um, this is when I clicked. This is when it clicked with all the bullying, and I went, "Oh, fish! Why did you do this to me?" Um,
I didn't do it. It was your idea originally to do the book, so
and I quote, "I
I was
thought
gonna
they
read it
loved
eventually
me."
anyway.
Um,
I warned you.
so a lot of the bullying that's happening in this instance is Chad being like, "Oh my god, you probably are changing in a private stall because you have such a small dick. You probably have such small dicks in your family. All this stuff."
Hear me out. That's kind of gay.
I know that's what my first thought was. Which I assume has something to do with the fact that Benji slept with his girlfriend. So like to be like, I mean, he probably couldn't pleasure her because he has such a small dick. Because you all have such small dicks. And then Jake literally says he won't date Chad no matter how much he talks about his dick,
Hell yeah.
which makes some people laugh and Chad go away. Um. Also, his friend, who was not really a friend, who they're not friends anymore, was one, a part of the crew that was watching and laughing, and two, is now a part of the jock crew, like his goal all along. So that's great. I think around this point, at one point, he brings up to Benji that he's no longer friends with that friend, and Benji's like, "Good, he was
hmm
using you." Um, just parts of glimpses of Benji actually being a good sibling. Um, he makes plans to hang with Fiona and Ouster, uh, as that friend tries to get his attention after that whole ordeal in gym class. Benji is a school weed dealer. That's just a fun fact.
I forgot about that.
Jake does weed with him for the first time. and it helps the ghost world disappear. And I went, oh no. It very much reminds me of Ninth House, how she becomes a drug addict because she learns if she's high, then she can't see most of the ghost stuff. And they have
Oh, that has
traumatized
ghost
her whole
stuff
life.
too. Everyone always talks about Ninth House, but I don't even know anything about it.
Dark academia, secret societies, ghosts, murder mystery.
I knew it was Dark Academia, but that's about
Also
it.
read by Virgo, and I've definitely liked a lot of her older books. I'm labeling Six of Crows duology as older characters books because while they are all 17 and 16 in my head, I aged them all up 3 years because I heard that it was initially written as an adult series, new adult series, like them in their early 20s, which makes sense with the topics. Literally, all she changed was the ages. The topics are all the same, which
Why
includes
didn't they just? I
sex
don't
slavery.
understand. I
Like,
don't understand why that
hello,
was a choice.
why is that in YA? But basically, when it was published, it was
Why
the
did they
boom
even make it YA?
because it was in the boom of the YA fantasy
Oh,
publishing. Yeah. And so they were like,
see, I
can you make
thought
it YA? So she just went, okay, control F.
no because they it probably would have done just as well, especially with younger audiences, even if it wasn't YA,
I know, right?
because teenagers gonna read whatever teenagers want to read.
Mm-hmm.
That applies to most people, though. I don't know.
That, God, that reminds me of something I saw online of some teenager reading Icebreaker. That's what it was. Some like
Yeah,
14
lots
year
of
olds
teenagers.
reading Icebreaker because their parents were like, oh, it's just like ice skating and it's a cartoonish cover. Obviously, my child's gonna love this. And then this teenager going to the author and be like, hey, I read your book. And the like this 14-year-old going to the author be like, I read your book. And the author be like, please no. Like, can we please like actually?
Can we talk about like the 12-year-olds reading Akatar and shit? And I'm just like, what?
Nobody needs to. Nobody, no matter your age, needs to read about that blowjob scene in the middle of a war zone as the wounded are screaming in pain. Like, thank you. I didn't
I
need to
didn't know
read
about
that, and
that.
I was in my 20s.
Yeah, never gonna read that.
Um, so Jake is high and tells Alistair everything about the ghost world, and then he immediately tells Fiona. And then they find the address of Sawyer's family and go check it out. Jake is breaking in as Fiona is distracting the mother, and Alistair is waiting in the car. Um, right before he goes to break in, because he's like, "This is life or death," and Alistair's like, "I can do it if you're too like freaked out and anxious about it," and he's all like, "No, no, 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 because I don't want to put you in danger." And so Alistair's like, "Oh, well, since it's dangerous, I have a crush on you." He's like, "I'm feeling for you," and Jake's brain just short circuits. He's like, "I mean, I like you too, but I don't want to put you in danger because, like, Sawyer's kind of like a bad thing, so I'm just gonna move on. Bye." And
Yeah,
that's when he steals Sawyer's journal. Right before being caught by Sawyer's sister. Um,
that was crazy. That scene was crazy. I was like, oh my god.
Also, another reason why he doesn't want to admit his feelings to Alistair is fear of how people would treat them if they were out.
I'm not gonna
One
cry about
being
that.
a gay couple, but also a gay black couple, right? And how Alistair deserves more than sneaking around.
I'm not gonna cry.
And then we
That's
watch
okay.
Sawyer watch him shower,
That is so weird.
and then Sawyer puts spiders in his ear. I don't know.
But
Anyways,
that scene was so traumatic too.
oh god,
Like
this
it was
is
just back to back to back to back. I was like, oh my god, give, give my poor Jake a little break, please. Oh my god.
this is the sexual assault scene. I will say right before this, everything that we've read from Sawyer's POV before, I have mentioned it was in his journals, his journal writing. Uh, Jake just stole the journal. It's him reading his journal throughout, right? Just being thrown in throughout. But it's like he's reading it as we're reading it at this point, so he's caught up, right? Um, so one day his mother's at work and his sister's somewhere, and his uncle comes over to fix his fan. He has like a ceiling fan in his room. Um, and I think he gives him alcohol and then tries to rape him. Sawyer tricks him into taking him into the bathroom and then sneaks the AR-15 he has in the closet out and points it at him. And this is when his mom comes home and points a revolver at his head. And his uncle's all like, I don't know what happened. And she believes him. Fucking
Oh my god.
people kill people. Um, and so Sawyer shoots out his kneecaps.
As he should.
I did laugh. I went, oh hell yeah. Um, and so she shoots Sawyer in the arm.
Imagine shooting your own fucking kid.
That's basically what Sawyer's reaction was. She won't take him to the hospital, and he's like, I can't live after this. Like, I'm done. But he doesn't want to die alone and wants everyone to know the truth. And since he's written, like, it's literally him writing as he's like on the way to this school. You know, like, this is why I did it, cops. Like, this is why. If you want to figure out why I became the way I am, this is why. Um, and finishes the journal and shoots up the school. Anyways, back to Jake. He doesn't know how to feel about Sawyer now that he's read the journal. One, he relates to him on a lot with the bullying and the gayness and internalized homophobia and all that fun stuff. Um, and only having one parent, but also like the trauma that Sawyer went through and all the stuff. He knows how to defeat Sawyer with his own fears in the spirit world now. Um, One day, I think it's the language arts teacher, I don't know, tries to make him remove his hoodie. Um, and he points out her racism in a joke, causing everyone to laugh and her to let him be. Oh god, this is a scene. I think what's happening in this scene is the influence of Sawyer mixed with the sleep deprivation is just like making Jake no longer stuff all his feelings down constantly and making things come out into the open. Um, Anyways, in language arts, yeah, it is language arts. They're talking about the Crucible, which is a classic in school I actually liked. And Chad is being racist. Just to get a
I was
rise from
surprised.
Jake. Um, Literally the teacher looks at Jake as Chad is saying it. Which he's talking about how the slave woman did it all for world domination. If you read the book. And then she tries to move past it. But he continues about how witches pass their powers down, so all African Americans, you know the way he said it, are evil. The teacher's just trying to ignore him as Jake is getting angrier. Valid. Chad says he thinks Jake should talk since they're talking about slaves. And that literally made me scream into my phone, so that was real nice. And then I laughed when Jake takes the pencil he was sharpening and stabs it through Chad's hand. I'd like to remind
No.
everybody,
But
Chad is
wait.
a football player. That is his whole personality. So now his whole personality is ruined.
LOL.
Hilarious.
No, but this whole scene, my jaw was on the ground. I was like, ain't no way. I was like, ain't no fucking way.
Jake laps in his face and uses the book to explain how they probably push her over the edge, very similar to how everything pushed Sawyer over the edge, and how Chad pushed him over the edge to react like this. Um, and so then obviously he's taken to the principal office, and he gets told the police will come. Oh yeah, also the principal. So the principal is drunk. One, two. Jake is usually in the principal's office, but a lot of the teachers just being racist, and then the principal like pretending to give him a talking to and just like letting him go, right? Um, so the principal's like, "This is new," um, and he gets told the police will come, and he should have told someone about the bully. Yeah, he's like, "What? Like he didn't do anything." He's like, he was being racist. He's been bullying me for over a year now. And the principal's like, well, why didn't you come to us? He's like you fucking care. I'd probably
No,
get told
because
to just suck it up. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Um, and
yeah,
then
the moment you tell anybody anything's going wrong or not, or there's something wrong, they don't care. They
yeah,
don't do anything.
and then
They
oh,
say,
also the
what can we
principal,
do? Can we help you? And then they don't do that.
um,
Like you ask for it, they don't do it. You say you don't know how they can help, they don't do anything. Even
the
I'm
prince,
fine.
the principal, says at one point that he doesn't want to call the police because he doesn't want to be blamed for racial profiling, but then says he uh doesn't, and I quote, doesn't want to be racist. And Jake goes, but, and then he's all like, but I have to call the police. Um, Also, nothing will happen to Chad in all of this. Uh, Jake does storm out, insinuating it wouldn't matter because the good old racism, right? If he told him about the bullying and all this stuff. Um, so that was the first time we get Sawyer after the shooting, right? It's no longer from the journals. We're just getting Sawyer's memories. It's like him right after he died. Uh, and how like normal people who have died, especially violent deaths, um, he was reliving his death constantly, but he very quickly learned how to feed off people, especially off their dark emotions. And Jake's dark emotions are the brightest, and that's why he started targeting them. It's never blatantly explained, but basically the theme is that Jake pushes down all his dark emotions, because he just doesn't know what to do. He doesn't like he's never been taught how to deal with his emotions, right? So he just pushes them all down. And so that's why Sawyer is like so strong, feeding off of him, because he's being able to feed and torment him and manipulate him off of all these dark emotions from everything, right? So basically the whole entire book is Jake going through this journey of realizing, hey, instead of stuffing my feelings down, maybe I should like communicate and all this fun stuff. So, you know,
I've come to that conclusion lately too, but it's still very difficult to,
yeah.
execute.
So it's after that he's like walking around. His mom was trying to call him, obviously. And he gets home and she gets mad he didn't tell anyone before, and he reminds her she wouldn't listen, and reminds her she just watched when his dad hit him. This is the first time we hear about this. That she just stood there and watched his dad hit him.
Don't remind me.
Jake runs away to the playground near their old home, which is where he talks to his ancestors, but most specifically his grandfather's ghost.
I love this part.
We learned that in the past, his dad tried to pray the gay away and use the F word. Um, Ghost Grandpa supports him. He's like, would I still be able to go into like basically was heaven, for them, uh, which is basically fighting ghouls from beyond the grave, right? With all his ancestors, would I be able to do that despite being gay? And his grandfather's like, I don't give a fuck. You're still you. Just be a good fucking person and do what you need to do. Um, and also reminds him he's not the first black gay man and he won't be the last, right? Um, oh, also another reason why Sawyer's so powerful is because all his victims, like the people he killed, he sucked up their souls
That's
and they're stuck in him.
that sounds nasty. Like,
I know, right? Um, Sawyer possesses him again, but this time Jake doesn't fight him, saying they can work together. Um, we get Sawyer possessing Jake, taking a butcher knife and stealing Benji's handgun. At which point Benji does wake up to him stealing a handgun. He's like, "What the fuck, dude?" And then buy supplies from a hardware store. All this is just bruising
and
by
here we are.
Jake's
It's
mind.
the taking.
This is the section where the Sawyer chapters are longer than the Jake's chapters, actually. Like they've switched places. um, Sawyer
I
goes
mean,
to
I would hope so.
his uncle's hunting cabin. This is when I think around the time you learn that it was his mother's brother, because he's thinking about all the ways he was wronged. And one of the ones he's like his mother couldn't like believed her own brother over him, chose his brother over him. Also, since everything, his uncle has just disappeared into his hunting cabin and has not talked to the rest of the family since.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want him near my family. Um, so he knocks on the door, and of course, Sawyer's currently a black man. So, obviously, his uncle is racist. He does have a Confederate flag. Have I mentioned this takes place in Georgia? Taking some of my coffee. So he's all like, "What do you want?" Blah, 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 being racist. And so, and notices that his uncle has a gun. He storms in. And he's all like, "Sir, I need a phone." And he's all like, "Get off here, you blah, blah, blah," racist. And he's all like, "Sir, I need a phone," and then breaks in. And then takes the butcher knife and stabs him multiple times.
LOL.
And then points. He, as he's remembering all the lessons his uncle gave him on gun handling, and also how he never wanted to like use guns. Like guns were not his thing, but he was forced to learn how to use guns because that's a masculine thing, right? Um, and his uncle's sitting on his bed with him, teaching him how to take care of a gun, take it all apart. And so he literally does the whole thing in front of his uncle as he's literally on the ground bleeding out and points the gun at him. And he's like, "Hey, guess my name." And so the uncle's just throwing out random names, and he's like, "No, I'm Sawyer Dune, your favorite nephew," and then shoots him, trashes the place, and then lights it on fire.
Hear me out. That's the only valid shooting that he committed.
To tell you, I was sitting in my bed, literally just shimmying, just dancing, like, hell yeah, let's go. I'm fun. Um, we learn from Jake's point of view in his head that the fire hurts them without touching them. I don't know what that's about. Jake plans his attack against Sawyer because Sawyer's distracted. Um, anyway, Sawyer's trying to get away from the fire and crashes the car into a tree. And then basically, it's the rest of the book, which is Jake's POV, where the astral projection fight. Which reminded me of that one fight in Doctor Strange. I think it was in the hospital. I don't remember. I don't know.
Me,
I
I
remember
forget
typing
what you're
that
talking
list.
about.
I know. One day I'll get you to watch Thor Ragnarok, just because I think you'd really like it.
Oh my god, I know. You keep bringing it up more and more, and I'm like,
It's
girl.
so funny. Um, it's pure brand of comedy. Um, thanks to the girl. Thanks to River. Who like, despite the fact that she disappeared after the fight with Sawyer before, she shows back up. Um, so she helps basically it's this whole end fight that's very confusing, but she basically helps Jake fight Sawyer, and in the process their souls are like combined. Like they're one and the same now, kind of. Um Jake calls Benji to come get him crying and then wakes up in the hospital bed and Benji's finally like, "Yeah, so ghost shit's real." This is also when we learn that uh the when his dad hit him, right? Because he bought a magazine that on the cover had a trans woman on it, I think. Right? And so his dad was like, "You an F word," and like punched him a bunch and slammed him against the wall, choking him out and all this stuff. And his mother was just standing there watching this happen. Um, right? And Benji was the one who like came down hearing all the ruckus and like stopped the dad, right? Pulled him back, despite the dad like trying to fight him now. Told Jake to run. Um, right? And so he did, and called his grandmother, who then came and picked him up and like took care of him for a little bit. But Benji was the one to save him, right? Uh, so yay. Um, before his dad found out about his sexuality, he was fine with it. He didn't see anything wrong with it. But after that whole thing, he couldn't make himself say it. And I'm just saying, I will kill this man. I will kill this random fictional man.
I agree. Because, like, I'm not, we're not gonna open that can of worms right now.
True. Um, so he tells Benji, "Hey, I'm gay," and Benji's like, "Hey, I'm proud of you for actually saying it." Um, but like, cool.
I'm pretty
Uh,
sure he was like, yeah, I know.
yeah, he's basically like, "Yeah, I know. I don't care. I'm proud of you." Um, like,
I'm fine. I'm not
continue
crying
to
right
tell
now.
people, and if they have an issue with it, and continue to be yourself, and if they have an issue with it, fucking fight them, which we love. Um, more of like, I think this is part of what teaches Jake to like just be himself and don't stuff everything down, right? Um, he astral projection talks to River, and they're now friends. Also, this is when he learns they're connected. And she took Sawyer to hell. He's all like, "Where did you take him?" And she's like, "Hell." And I just went, "What?" She has Jake write a letter for her mom. And he like bikes over and drops it off in her room under like in between book pages so that like she could one day when she goes through all her daughter's stuff, she will find this letter being basically, "You taught me to be strong. Thank you. I love you." Sad. um, his mom is allowing him to leave private school and go back to his old public school. And she's like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm more sure of myself. That was the only reason they bullied me because I didn't know how to be out and gay and stuff because of dad. Now I know how to.
I'm fine.
Thanks." She apologizes for not doing anything about his father until it was too late, hinting at her being abused too. I had an icky feeling about that section. Like, I get it, but also, like, felt icky. And he immediately accepts her apology. He's like, I love you, Mom. And I'm like, okay, but this does not negate the trauma you have. Like, can somebody please put all of you in therapy? Thank you.
Mhm.
Um, Fiona takes him rock climbing, and he comes out to her, uh, and she's just a nice person who supports him. And she's like, I think you and Alistair would make a good couple. I'm fine. So we
Mhm.
asked Alistair out. He's like, I'm finally ready for this. They go out for burgers. Alistair dressed up, and he's all like, ooga ooga. Um, and Jake explains he's learning to speak what's on his mind instead of pushing it all down. And it ends with them kissing, and Jake being all like, I don't care what anybody thinks about this, because there's nothing else I'd rather be doing.
Mhm.
Yay!
Yeah, if you couldn't guess, this book made me cry multiple times. But then again, I cry at a lot of stuff that doesn't really matter.
Probably not. Alright, um, I'm not going to talk about which Greek god we are, though I do feel like we should just put in here that there is an announcement, bookish announcement, that Disney Plus is making Kane Chronicles TV show, which means I have to reread the books now. Fuck it hell.
Yeah, I never finished them,
I did finish
but
them,
me
but I
and
can only
Judah couldn't
find
read them,
one
so.
copy. Hilariously, this is a funny story. Um, I had read the original Percy Jackson series, right? And I had bought like all of them and then all of the King Chronicles. And I think it was right around the time that Heroes of Olympus had started coming out. Like I think the first book had come out. And I was trying to get my dad to read them because I thought he would really like them. And he's like, no, I don't want to read children's books. I don't want to read middle grade, like blah blah. But then I told him the King Chronicles, technically part of the same universe, but Egyptian mythology. And he was like, "Oh, give me those." And so he read those first, and that's when he started to read Percy Jackson. And that's why I have all the books up until I think the second Magnus Chase because he was buying them and reading them. He read more of them than I have currently, still.
That's really sweet.
And that's how I got my dad to read Percy Jackson.
Imagine your dad enjoying things with you and spending time with you. And I mean, he can't anymore for you personally because he's dead. Sorry about that, Bestie.
I'm not sure. Um, yeah, I've realized now the whole reason why I clicked in my brain to have him read the Egyptian one instead of the Greek one, knowing that he liked Egyptian mythology, is because the Stargate SG-1 TV show.
I don't know what that is.
Um, it's a show where Greek god or not Greek gods, well, gods in general, a lot of it's Egyptian, right? Um, are actually aliens in human host bodies,
Um,
and it's about the military trying to defeat them.
yeah, that sounds like something he would enjoy, just from what you told me. That's crazy. Anyway,
That's how Jason Momoa got his start in the spin-off series about Atlantis. Dude, I watched a retrospective about the whole entire universe recently, so my brain. It's been a long time since I watched any of them, like a long, long time. I remember being in love with the nerd guy Daniel, which really says a lot about me. That at, like 12 years old, I was obsessed with that man. I always liked the twinks.
I wonder why.
I wonder why too. Anyways, yeah, that's being turned into a TV show. Apparently, it was supposed to initially be movies, but then it was put on like hiatus indefinitely, right? I assume because of the Percy Jackson movies being absolutely horrendous, right? And so now that the Percy Jackson show came out and it's popular and people like it, they decided to turn that
Yeah,
into a show as well. And I get, but I think that those books actually would be better as a trilogy. But I get why
I
they're doing show.
no, I feel like with all of Rick's books and their adaptations would be better as TV shows just because there's so much content. You know,
I don't know.
like there's so much lore and just you just can't cover it in a 2 hour movie. You know, but that's my personal opinion.
All right. Um, do you have anything else to say about this book?
Good book. Book good.
Don't read it all in one day like me. The fish can handle it because the fish likes being mentally unwell. But
I don't. I really don't. But I don't know how any other way to
the
deal with
mentally
me being
unwell
mentally
books, the
unwell.
books that make me mentally unwell, affect me horrendously. Seem to make you better. I don't know what this is
Yeah,
about.
because my own life is that horrendous, and I'm like, why not deal with other people's pain and suffering instead of my own, and then I'll be fine.
You know, it's my version. It's like your version of me reading books that are so stressful because if I'm going to be stressed anyways, might as well be about something that I don't actually have to deal with myself.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Wow, I love that for us.
Which one is more mentally ill? Just
I
this
don't really.
question.
It's a Campbell. I don't know, dude. I was. What book was it that I was? Oh, Starfish. That's what it was. I was looking at
Oh
my
yeah.
review of Starfish, and because I was making this is one of my favorite books. I'm not gonna explain why, and um, like on my labels or in my review, I wrote I was wearing sunscreen so I didn't cry because I didn't have to reapply it. But let me tell you, my heart rate on my watch was over 100 for most of it, and I'm just like, God, girl, get some help.
I agree.
Anyways, and then I immediately bought the book.
I'm so glad I bought it. I don't know what possessed me to buy it. Like, I don't know why I bought it.
I know
I mean, it was
why
on
I
my
bought it.
TBR,
I bought it because
but
I really liked it, and then I was like, I want to annotate it, and then it happened to be on sale for $8 instead of 10. So
the way I read the first page, I was like, I have to annotate this, and then I did.
that was like the very beginning of our friendship.
Yeah,
Cause that was like one
I
of
was
my
literally on
first.
sprints when
Yeah,
you
that
were
was one
doing
of my
sprints
first
when I
sprints.
started
You
it.
showed up, and you were like talking about how you cut your tabs in half so that it saves them, but also you
Yeah,
don't need them to be that thick, right?
I still do that.
And then you were talking about trying to figure out what color of tabs to use. And then I think like a week later is when you recommended Girl Serpent Thorn to me. Because I was talking
Uh
about
huh.
how I was trying to figure out what books to read for my Pride Month vlog, and you were like, "Hey, for bi representation, read this one." And then I did, and then I loved it. And look at
Uh
us
huh.
now.
Can you believe it? That we made it this far.
Not in this cruel, cruel world. I don't know how we did it. All I said was to tell you to end the episode.
Oh, okay. Then say the thing. So I can say the thing.
No, you gotta promote us, because I'm bad at it.
Oh my god. There's links to everything for all of us in the description. Uh, of you know where to find it. It's not that hard to find it. I promise.
It's really not.
You
I
can
make it
find
very
my 20
obvious.
abandoned accounts, and then you can watch Rose's channel where she posts too much, and then her
It's only
Twitch,
twice a week.
which
I'm only very stressed.
I should watch your streams more. I'm sorry, Bestie. Um,
It's fine.
and then another abandoned account, which is the fucking Instagram account for our podcast, because it's fine. I'm fine. I know how to
You were
do
on the
things
ball with
with
it for like
things.
a solid month, and then your mental health went fuck you, and then they never posted again.
I don't know why. I got issues in my head.
Stay tuned to the podcast if you want to listen to Rose be stress reading the rest of the books for this podcast before she goes away for a month. Woo! As
Mhm.
soon as the plane ticket was bought, I was like, oh my god, it's officially happening. And then I went, oh my god, there's so many books I have to read.
You sound like a choppy robot.
I love that for me. That's my new personality. Um, anyways, do you have anything else to say? They can't hear me. The robot voice took over. I am robot.
Did you say that Did you say that ask if I had anything else to say?
That is what I said.
No.
Thank you.